So Sony just ruined one of the best games to release this year, all because they love screwing over their customers. In case you've been touching grass these past few days, I'll fill you in on what's going on. Sony just imposed a mandatory PSN account login for players of HELLDIVERS 2, and everyone and their mom is absolutely pissed about it, and rightfully so. The repercussions of Sony's decision have been pretty devastating because players who purchased the game are finding themselves suddenly locked out due to Sony's changes in policy. Sony just took a massive dump on the HELLDIVERS fanbase. Back in February when HELLDIVERS 2 released, it was available globally on Steam. All you needed was to log into Steam and jump into the game. But now Sony is saying that you need a Steam account and also a PSN account, even though you're not on a PlayStation, you're on your PC. Now you might think, so what, just make a PSN account, it takes like 5 minutes. And while yes, that is correct, the real issue is that Sony decided to change the conditions after you already purchased your product. And this isn't even the first time or even the last time Sony has and will do this to their customers. Only a few months ago, Sony was caught screwing over their customers. Sony consumers had bought and paid for on-demand content like movies and TV shows, and the assumption when you purchase things like that is that you will own them indefinitely. They should always be linked to your account. But not with Sony apparently. Sony removed the paid-for content and never issued refunds to their customers who bought it. It's like, imagine you just bought a bike from Walmart and then 3 years later, while you're riding your bike home from school, the Walmart employee finds you, steals your bike, and then leaves you stranded in the middle of nowhere. That's kind of how this feels. Now, while I don't agree with it, the biggest issue with this Sony HELLDIVERS situation isn't necessarily that the agreement changed. It's how this change affects the player base. If you remember what I said earlier in the video, it was available globally on Steam. The key word there is globally. So the issue that I really have is the fact that Sony enacted this change, meanwhile, PSN accounts aren't accessible in all the same locations that Steam is. So when it first released, literally everyone around the world who has access to Steam was able to download this game. They were able to give their money to Steam. But now those people can't even play the game that they paid for. And what's even more fucked is that people are getting denied refunds. Let's just paint this picture. A player buys HELLDIVERS 2 on Steam. They love it and they've been playing it since it released. Now, suddenly, this Sony policy changes. You now have to have a PSN account, but unfortunately, this player doesn't live in a location where they can set up a PSN account. So now this player is locked out of the game that they paid for. And when that player goes to Steam and they request a refund, what do you think Steam tells them? They tell them, sorry, your refund request is denied because you played the game for more than 2 hours. Really, Steam? I owned this game for 2 months. I was able to play it as much as I wanted. But now that I'm locked out of the game, have no access to it, no ability to play this game that I gave you my money for, you don't want to refund me? If you don't want to refund people, don't allow Sony to change the terms of their agreement after people already paid for the product. Isn't that just fucked? Sony can seemingly change their agreements anytime, but when customers don't want to partake in that change, they're just shit out of luck. You know what, I never thought I would say this, but Ubisoft was right. Gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games.